Good evening and welcome. Tonight we'll be going over the history and geography of Micronesia. Now, let's get into some definitions first. There are three main sections of Oceania. We have Melanesia, you can see down here. Over there is Polynesia, and up here is Micronesia. And there are some, cultural differences between the three groups. We're not going to get into it tonight. That's a bit too much to get into. Just need to know that fact. And I have you zoomed way out on this map so you could see where exactly we are in the world. You can see Australia right here. There's Papua New Guinea and Indonesia. And we are going to be just north of this area. So Micronesia is the name of this whole area up here, but the country we're going to be looking at is the Federated States of Micronesia. Might be a little confusing, but it's kind of like how there's a country called America and a continent called America. South Africa is in the south of Africa. It's kind of like that. The Federated States of Micronesia have four main island groups. They are, I have to look way over here. We have Yap over here. Over here is Chuk. Here is Pohnpei. And here is Kosrae. And as you can see, there are lots and lots of different little atolls in between these islands. There's about 600 or so different islands in the Federated States of Micronesia. You can see Palau is just over here. And we have the Marshall Islands. Nauru is right here. And we have Guam and the Northern Marianas up here. The other name for these islands is the Caroline Islands. I believe Palau is part of the Caroline Islands by very specific definition, but that's their old colonial name. They don't really go by that now. It's just a geographic feature. So I really wanted you to see the scope of where exactly we are in the world. I'm going to take you in closer so we can look at each individual island group, and then I'm going to pull out my tablet so we can look around on Google Earth. There isn't much to show on Google Earth, but what there is very interesting. So let's zoom in. Alright, so here you can see the four main parts of the island groups. This doesn't show all the tiny atolls, but that's okay because they are very tiny atolls. So let's start over here with the Yap Islands. It's a little archipelago here, and they're very, very corally. A lot of these islands are. There are four main islands here in this group. We have the main island of Yap. Up here we have Rumung, little one. Right next to it is Map, and this is Gogil Tamil. And yeah, basically very corally. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about the Yap Islands. Moving on to Chuk. I'm going left to right geographically. Chuk, as you can see, is one massive coral atoll. It's pretty big in terms of atolls, and there's lots of islands there inside the lagoon. The island used to be called Truk, so a lot of things are still named Truk, but it's officially Chuk. The largest city is Ueno, you can see right here, and there's quite a few different island groups inside the lagoon, but the main one is Fachok over here, and then the Nomoneans, which are up here, the northern and the southern. There's various other tiny little ones. But, yeah, atoll islands are kind of fascinating. You'll see on Google Earth. I'll show you a lot of Chuk. Moving on to Pohnpei. Pohnpei and Kosrae are different in that they're volcanic. This island has lots of big peaks around it. Nan Laud is the highest peak. It's right about here. It's not really indicated on my map because there's three big peaks right here, so you can't really get it all on a tiny little map like this. The capital city of Micronesia is located here. It is Palikir. We're also going to be talking about the town of Colonial and its history, which is right there. And there are many, many different atolls in like the Pompeii administrative area. The nearest one you can see right here is the Ant Atoll, but there are many. There's also lots of little islands here within the coral over here. And it also used to be called Ponape, I believe. Now it's Pohnpei, and not Pompeii like in Italy. It's Pohnpei. Lastly, we have Khosrei right here, which is another big mountainy, volcanic-y island. Not like a big, boomy, lava gushing volcano island, but it's not as much of an atoll like the other islands, right? Khosrei is a beautiful island in that it has this very pristine coral reef and basically untouched rainforest in the center. So there's tourism on the island, but it's mostly like eco-tourism, right? Nothing like too extravagant. But that's something they really pride themselves on. And we're going to talk about Lelu Island and its history, which is right over here. There's, again, just like everyone else, there's little itty-bitty tiny islands around, but Khosrei mainly consists of the one big island. Pohnpei, I should say, is also really forested as well. It's just more populous than Khosrei. Khosrei is kind of out in the middle of nowhere, like you saw on the map. So let me recenter this so you can see all the islands as best I can. And let me get into history. So the first settlers would have arrived in this part of the world about 4,000 years ago by the Austronesian people. And there were many, because you know how spread out these islands are. I just showed you. There were many different ancient cultures on all the islands. So let's go over them. First of all, in Yap, they had quite a civilization set up. They had the Yapese Empire set up in the area. They had lots of really interesting rules and regulations in their empire, but the most interesting one is the Ray Stones or Rye Stones. I've heard both pronunciations, which was their form of currency. And actually, if you know Whisper Audio's ASMR, she has a second channel called iPad ASMR where she goes on her iPad, and she did a whole video on Ray Stones. And it's fascinating. So I'm just going to link that below so you can learn more about these really, really cool stones that they built in a lot more relaxing ASMR details. Over on Pohnpei, there's a very interesting history. There was a couple of like ruling families. They're all very like mythological. Like they're part of the legends of the island, but the one we know for sure were known as the Sodalar dynasty. Apparently they came from another place and said, we're going to set up a government on your island, and the people here said okay, and they were very, very strict and very intensely closely governing the people, and no one really liked it. They ruled from about the year 500 to around 1500, and apparently another person came from somewhere and overthrew them and established the tribal kind of government that still exists today on Pohnpei. They also, during the Sodalar dynasty, built a Venice kind of city called Nanmadol, and it was essentially, man-made islands out on the coast, and it's now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's mostly fallen apart. You can kind of see it over here, the Nanmadol Islands. But it's preserved as best as it can, considering that it's basically like rocks stacked up on the water, It's kind of hard to preserve. Chuk had their own culture. Their Chukese culture would have started around the 14th century. Pretty much what you'd expect in an oceanic island culture. Pretty much, exactly what you'd expect. Khosrei also had its own government and royal families. They built some really cool tombs for their kings and had their own economy as well. So anyway, that all aside, that's all going on, right? One day, a Portuguese ship gets swept away in a storm, and it lands over in, I think, on the Yap Island. So that was their first real contact. Spain would eventually claim the islands due to the Treaty of Tordesillas, which is an agreement that Portugal and Spain drew up over what they could conquer in the world. And it's why Portugal has Brazil but not the rest of South America, because that's where the line was drawn. So everything on that side of the line was Spanish. That's why they have Mexico, that's why they have the Philippines. And so they claimed this area. And it was a little iffy to settle, apparently. In 1707, Spain said, okay, we're going to send out missionaries to these islands. We're going to convert these people, get them on our side. And in 1731, one of the missionaries was killed. The other fled for their life. So they kind of ditched the islands. But they did incorporate it into the Spanish East Indies, which was headquartered over in the Philippines. So it still belonged to Spain, but they didn't do anything with it for the longest. And when they did in the 1880s, it was strictly economical. They didn't want anything to do with the religion at that point. They established the town of Colonial as their more administrative center. And in the meantime, since Spain wasn't doing anything here, the British and the Germans were setting up missions and sending missionaries to the islands here. Cosre apparently was really into Christianity. And the Spanish were not happy about this because they didn't want, because, you know, Britain will just gobble up anything it lays its eyes on. And Germany at this time was a brand new, like, formal nation, and they were trying to get colonies in Oceania. So Spain didn't really want that. However, the Spanish-American War happened not long after that. Spain got totally beat big time. So they decided to sell the islands to Germany in 1899. Germany made it part of German New Guinea, which was headquartered over in Papua New Guinea. Oh, I meant to say that it was the Spanish that named them the Caroline Islands after King Charles. It was Las Carolinas. So anyway, Germany called it Colonia, I think they called the islands, but the Caroline name is stuck to this area ever since. So Germany owns the islands. World War I's right around the corner. So Japan comes in 1914 when World War I kicks off, and they conquer a lot of the German territories, including these islands, just so that the Germans wouldn't have that area. That happened in, like, a lot of their colonies in Africa as well. Like, the British and French just hopped in and took it. So after World War I, the League of Nations, which was basically what the UN was before World War II, the League of Nations mandated the islands to Japan. Japan made them a colony. They were mainly centered around Yap and definitely around Chuuk. They built a lot of naval operations in the islands here on Chuuk. And, you know, they settled in all the islands, but Chuuk was their main big center. And then definitely in World War II, they made it into like a fleet station for their naval army. And there was a huge battle here in 1944, and Japan had to pull out of Chuuk. Well, Chuuk it was called at the time. But they stayed around the other islands. They built some forts on Kosrae and some really cool tunnels, but it didn't see any action. And the Japanese eventually withdrew from all the islands in 1945. And the United Nations administered these islands to the United States, since they were the ones that beat Japan in this area of the world. And they gave a lot of other territories to the United States this time. This is how they got Guam. They were also given the Northern Marianas, Palau, the Marshall Islands, etc. And it remained that way until these 4 island groups came together to ratify a constitution in 1979 to unite and become one country. Palau wasn't interested in joining, neither were the other countries. So the Federated States of Micronesia signed an agreement with the United States known as the Compact of Free Association, and a lot of other islands like Palau and all that have also signed this, in saying that they are very closely tied to the United States, but they aren't technically part of the United States. Many other parts of the islands out here are part of that agreement. They can do things like join the United States military, and I believe they have free travel to the United States, like the 48 or 50 states, I suppose, but they are their own thing, and that was agreed upon, and Micronesia became independent on November 3rd, 1986, and it's been just kind of a chill place. They don't have, they have politics, but they don't have political parties, so there hasn't really been, I tried to find some political interesting anything. There really is not any. There's really not much really happening on the islands except for Chuuk. So apparently in 2015, Chuuk decided they wanted to explore the concept of independence, and they were going to have a referendum in 2017, I think it was, but they delayed it because they wanted to keep exploring their options, and they're going to have one in 2019, they delayed it. They were going to have one in 2020, they delayed it. So their next one is scheduled for this year, 2022. They have until 2023 to decide. The United States is against them becoming independent, mainly because they're worried about China coming in and having a heavy influence on these islands, which they already kind of do in a way. But from the looks of things, it looks like it's not going to happen, that they're just going to keep delaying the vote. So that's really the only interesting political thing happening on these islands. So, really neat place, right? Very fascinating cultures. And all four are very different. All four have their own language. They all speak English as the official language, but since these islands are so spread apart and have had their own cultures, they all speak Yapese or Chukis, so on and so forth. So anyway, let me go grab my tablet and I'll show you what these beautiful islands look like. Alright, so here we are in the Federated States of Micronesia. Let me just show you around real quick. Over here is... Oop, there we go. We've got the Yap Islands there. And then way over here, so far away from the Yap Islands. Gotta zoom out more. I don't want to get lost at sea. Then we have... There's Chuuk. Isn't that an interesting atoll? It is gigantic. Like, look at the size of the lagoon of the atoll. It is huge. And then, just over here, that's not it. Those are more atolls. We have... Boom, boom, boom. Those are the Marshall Islands. Too far, too far. Too far. Okay, I'm already getting lost at sea. There's Chuuk. We head up here to Pohnpei. You can see it's a big old rocky island, but still with its coral around it. And then if we head over this way, I think this is it. We have Koh Samui. So very, very spread out places in this country, right? Oops. There's all of it. Like, that's wild. It's so spread out, but also very, very tiny, like, landmass in total, right? So let's look at some points of interest. Actually, no, let's look at the pictures first. We've got some of the big, like, mountainy spines on some of these islands. It's an absolute paradise, right? And there's lots of pictures in here of Nanmadol. Beautiful waterfalls. This is Nanmadol. These were the buildings they constructed on their own man-made islands. Isn't that something? What construction? See, look, you can see in comparison to a person there. Absolutely huge, neat, very well constructed structures out of rocks there. Yeah, it's one of the big things that, like, apparently it's like, oh, sweet. The thing to see when you go to Pompeii, these sites. This is actually a Japanese bunker. This was built by the Japanese. And that's Namado. So let's check out, because everything's very spread out. And there's not a lot of like photos or street view or anything on these islands. So let's check out Nanmadol. You can really see how like they sort of made it like, you know, what they call the Venice of the Pacific, right? You can kind of see it, the water around, and it's surrounded by all these trees here. They built their own little city there. Isn't that cool? I think that's pretty neat. What else can we find on Pompeii? Let's go to 3D view. Boom, boom, boom. Come on. Oh, it's not very good 3D view. But you can see some of the mountainy spine there. There's some historic sites from World War II up here. But there's no pictures of them. Oh, here we go. Some gun sites. There's no pictures of them. See what I mean? Like, I kind of have to do the, oh, maybe this one. Anti-aircraft guns. Hey, look at that. So, look how they've been abandoned. Just left in the jungle to just rot away. But this is what the Japanese used to, oh, it's a cool bunker there, to defend the territory. Yeah, look at that. Cool. Little bunker there. Isn't that neat? Could go in there to dodge any kind of bombing or to hide or whatever. Their little secret base in the hills. Yeah, it's World War II memorabilia. That's just sitting out and letting nature reclaim it. But yeah, I think for the most part, that's the eel pools. Hold on. Are there eels? Oh, yeah. I got way too excited. Eels. We won't look at the eel pools. That's funny, though. Let's see what else we can find in the points of interest. We saw the mountain already. Pretty cool. The Yap Islands. Let's go to Yap. There's not much here in terms of Google Earth, but you can really see the 4 islands here clustered together. I don't think... Oh, there are some pictures. Oh, how neat. We've got a tribal dance there. Longhouse. Oh, that's neat. We got... Oh, here's the Raystones. Yeah, kind of like... That's like Nanmadol's what you see on Pompeii. On Yap, you see the Raystones. The neat little houses there. Living as they have been forever, right? A little paradise here. And there we go. Oh, a shark. Little black tip shark there. So yeah, you can see the city of Colonial there. We've got... Where's the airport? I know it's... Every island has an airport. There it is. Let's see what else we have here. The waterfalls. Oh, Leilu Island. Let's go see that. So we're heading way over, boom, 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 to Kosrae. So here we are at Kosrae. There's the airport up there. I wonder if there's pictures at the airport. Let's see what an international airport looks like in the middle of nowhere. It looks like that. Isn't that funny? I mean, it's not funny, it's just quaint. Here's the security check. As someone who's been through so many huge international airports, it looks so peaceful. I love and hate airports. I love to travel, but airports are a hassle, right? They're horrible. So let's check out Leilu Island here. See if we can't see any of the historic sites here, because, you know, like I told you, it was the center of their kingdom for a while, and there's some neat, darn, I have to go like this again. There's some tombs and things of their leaders. No, 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 no. Stay here. There we go. With the ancient tombs, I saw some sources describe it as pyramids. And I was like, kind of doubt that. I mean, I have such a clear image when you think of pyramids, right? You think of Central America or Egypt or something. These aren't really pyramids, but very interesting tombs and probably old like structures. There's an old wall there. Very, very interesting place. It's being taken over by the jungle as well. Let's see what else. Island there. We already looked at Yap. And just the little. You see, there's the little ruins. We just saw that. Let's see. What didn't we see? We didn't look at Chuk. Chamorro Bay. Lots of tiny islands, atolls. Yeah. Let's go look at Chuk because we saw everywhere else but Chuk. Hold on. I want to see this. A little village here in the middle of nowhere on Pingalap, the Pingalap Atoll. I just think about like the people that live here. I can't help it. I just think that like someone lives here. This is their everyday life, right? This is their normal. This is their everyday. They wake up, they have breakfast, they see this when they step outside their home. And it's literally the middle of nowhere, right? I just find that so fascinating that everywhere is someone's everyday, no matter how remote or huge it is. Chuk. I was like, wait, what am I going to again? I just forgot. Let's go to Chuk. So yeah, Chuk is a massive atoll, isn't it? Like, look at the lagoon. It's so big. And we've got lots of cool little islands here. I'm trying to really make it so you can see the 3D aspect of it, but I think it's just there's not a lot of Google Earth images of these islands to really do the effect. But you can see a little Spine Mountain there, and lots of big islands inside of this atoll. Isn't that so interesting? Villages around the shore there. Isn't that a fascinating place? And, you know, they don't really focus on tourism. Kosrae, I think, and Yap to a certain extent are the ones that focus the most on tourism. There's another spine right there. Oops, someone's honking. Many people actually visit these islands because they're so interesting and so different. So here's Ueno. There's the big airport. Let's see what an international airport looks like on Chuk. The state of Chuk. Oh, wow. Oop. Oh, no. Oh, that's horrible. I don't think that airplane was meant to be in the water. Oh, no. People are evacuating. Okay, there's a story to be told. Hold on. I have to find out what happened. There is a... Oh, no. They had to do a water landing. Well, it looks like... No, it looks like everyone was okay at least. Oh dear, look at that. Yeah, it looks like everyone got evacuated. That's good. And I'm sure in the lagoon there, the water's probably not terribly deep if they crashed near this coral or had to land there. Well, what a story. So many photos of that water landing there. So like I said, people do come here and experience island living, but it's not like you don't see like massive resorts or anything, you know. It's not like a vacation destination. It's like almost like an ecotourism kind of place. And again, there's 4 different island chains to choose from. Each one is so different and has their own unique history. So you can, I guess, go island hopping. I'm not sure how direct flights work around these islands, but yeah, it just seems like a very, very cool place to visit. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you found this video relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a very good night. Can't even see Chook anymore. Watch this.